Hi, it's Ken Cook, and welcome to Ken Cook is having another episode. I have them all the time. This episode is coming out during the holiday season. This usually means spending more time with your loved ones, traveling, a lot of eating. I'll be doing a 20K run on Christmas morning. No, I won't. I'll be eating on Christmas morning and opening presents. And for those of us who want to eat cleaner and healthier, all that traveling can make it really tough to make good choices because the choices aren't there. While I was in New York recently, I got the opportunity to speak to someone who has a really great take on health and wellness, in my view. My guest specializes in integrating environmental concerns into a health and wellness philosophy. Mona Vand is a holistic pharmacist, content creator, and health and wellness expert. She received her doctorate in pharmacy from the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, and she uses her expertise to connect with people of all backgrounds to share health information in a relatable and literally digestible way. Mona believes that food is powerful medicine, but she doesn't believe that perfection is the pathway to health. Instead, she focuses on all the little efforts we can make that add up to a big difference. She shares her tips, tricks, and recipes on her website, monavand.com, and on her social media at monavand. I'm so excited for you all to hear my conversation with Mona, so let's dive in. Thanks for coming on to the show.
It's an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Yeah. So we talked on your podcast about a whole range of things. Tell me a little bit about your trajectory from, we talked about it on your podcast, but I wanted on mine too, a little bit about your trajectory, about how you went from being focused on getting an advanced degree in pharmacy to now, moving in the direction of health and wellness that spans nutrition and other, because what I was struck by is when I go to a pharmacist, I'm expecting them to tell me about the pill that's prescribed or walk me down the aisle at CVS and say, this is what you need for your rash or whatever it might be.
Yep.
And I don't think of it holistically at all. It's like, okay, you've come into this pharmacy. I'm going to deal with you as I see you in the moment and do the best I can. Nothing long-term, nothing holistic. There's no time for it. How did you move in that direction to fill that part of your wellness philosophy out?
That's why I've started referring to myself as a holistic pharmacist, because what's interesting is in pharmacy school, we got into actual med chem, pharmacokinetics, those things like, year 4, year 5, because it's a 6-year doctorate. So the first 3 years and even some of the 4th year, we're really learning about the body. We're learning about health and disease state management and just all of the basics. Like, how does your body absorb food? How do you metabolize? So one of the biggest things they tell us is step 1 is always lifestyle modifications. We learn this in school. So I graduated thinking, all right, step 1 is diet and exercise and lifestyle. But unfortunately, in practice, it just doesn't happen. People either don't want it or they don't give us the time for it.
Right.
Right out of school, I worked at retail pharmacy. And it was like the worst experience.
Because there's a line of people waiting for their prescription.
Exactly.
You want to get that right.
Oh, yeah. And they're mad. And listen, some people aren't feeling well. They're frustrated. Other people just look at it like a McDonald's line and they want to get out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Then you're dealing with insurance where it's not going through. Then you have people addicted to narcotics who are angry and aggressive. So you've got all this. Oh, and then the people who are like, where's the toilet paper? Where's the bathroom key? So it's a whole situation, and I'm like, I didn't go to school for this. I actually loved the parts where someone would ask me, I have this and this symptom, and I got to go and like cherry pick what they should take over the counter.
Yeah.
So I jumped from job to job as a pharmacist. I was in retail, then I went to a closed door and did specialty, and then I worked for an independent retail, and I kept trying to find something that would fulfill me. I was also just so immersed in health and wellness because I'm living in Los Angeles. I had this background in health. I'm passionate on it.
Yeah.
So I just kept getting closer and closer to wanting to do natural, holistic things. And then it was kind of a progression where I was like, I don't like this job is just not what I'm put on earth to do.
Yeah.
And you have this moment where you're like, I was 24 when I graduated. So I'm thinking, I just spent 6 years of my life. I just spent, like, over $150,000 in student loans. How could I switch careers? But now, as I've evolved my consciousness, spirituality, 6 years of your life is nothing.
Yeah.
So I pivoted out. And luckily, I was so passionate about health and wellness that I was still able to use my degree towards something I like. So then it just really transitioned and it kept getting more and more deep on cleaner, non-toxic, holistic. And that's what led me to where I
Yeah.
am now.
Prevention, focusing
Mhm.
on that so that by the time, if you really need the medicine,
Exactly.
yeah, we have all kinds of, medical professionals on our board of directors. Mark Hyman's on it, and Harvey Karp is on it. And
I love Mark Hyman.
they blend alternative with conventional medicine. I mean, they are always looking at the holistic dimension of health, but they're not saying forsake conventional medicine. How do you think about that and talk to people about it, Mona?
I'm very aligned. We refer to it as integrative medicine.
Yeah.
And I'm really aligned with integrative because I don't like to shame people who want to go the medication route. And there's times where it's been very helpful.
Sure.
I think there's such a sweet spot. And I think as much as you can do to prevent, you do. And then, maybe sometimes it can be helpful short term. For example, post surgery, it's extremely important to lower inflammation, lower pain, because when you're in pain post surgery, your body is in a more of a stress state and you aren't going to heal as well.
Yeah.
So I've worked with even some of the most natural naturopaths who I'm saying don't even have Wi-Fi, live in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
And they're like, make sure you take this after surgery because you don't want to stress your body out. So I think there is a time and place short term, but you have to just be open-minded. And hopefully the time and effort and money that you, I guess, invest into holistic remedies and eating well will prevent you the time and money later on that you're going to spend on it.
Yeah. No, that's exactly, I think, the balance that you try and strike. And there are times when, if you're right on the edge of a serious health problem and you don't have time to develop, tests for the biomarkers by changing your diet and doing all these other things, sometimes a straightforward conventional medical fix is what you need. But even for myself, it's hard for me to stay in the routines when I travel and, trying to find the right food, trying to exercise. I'm terrible about exercising when I travel. I
am too, actually. That's one thing I struggle with.
There's something about going down to a hotel gym that is,
It's depressing.
it is
Right?
depressing.
The lighting.
They're always in the basement. And yet there are mirrors. So the one thing you don't want to see is
That
how
overhead
you
light is not flattering.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what's really helped me with that? I don't know if do you like group classes?
I haven't done very many. I used to do spin classes long ago. Yeah.
I love when I'm in a city like
Try that.
Miami, LA, New York, trying out a new Pilates class because it's so intentional and I paid for it and I'm going to go because, versus like
The
and
hotel, like,
exactly.
maybe I'll fold my socks.
And I really think I have this weird hobby of when I'm in new cities, finding a little healthy cafe, finding something clean to eat, finding a workout studio. So it becomes something enjoyable for me to do on the trip and save.
Yeah, I've taken to finding good grocery stores and trying to skip a few meals of bad stuff and just eat, fresh fruit or something in the room just to
Me
kind of.
too. I'll even pack with me either Wild Planet or Safe Catch tuna or wild salmon, little packs.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, even Wild Planet actually has 100% like grass-fed and finished organic beef.
Oh, wow.
And it's just, look, it's not ideal, but it's better. It's better quality. At least I know it's grass-fed and finished and organic.
Yeah. Let's go back to, 6 years getting your doctorate in pharmacy. What are the best things you pulled out of that experience? What was obviously a grounding in science that is super helpful, a grounding in nutrition, a grounding in how doses of different chemicals affect your body, specifically drugs, of course. What do you carry with you, you think, every day that's separate from your self-taught exploration of nutrition and other dimensions of healthy living? What did that $150,000
I better have done something.
Yeah, better be good.
Well, first of all, even I think it contributes to my self-exploration and self-education because when you're learning with such a deep knowledge of science and how the body works, you can understand it in a different way. And
Totally.
I nerd out on that, which I really like. Also, I would say education aside, the discipline that it gave me and the work ethic that it gave me. I mean,
Yeah.
I went into my freshman year thinking like I could study like I did in high school. I got a rude awakening the first year. And look, if you fail one class, you're back a year, which I was not interested in. So I had to
Yeah.
learn how to really study, how to focus. It got me organized. So I think now I have this work ethic almost to a fault where I just don't know how
And
to
it
sit.
crystallized during that period.
Yes, it really because I was not like that in high school. I was not organized. I did not clean my room. I didn't wasn't efficient with my time. And then I had to be in
So
college.
you've met my son.
Yeah, well, send him to pharmacy school and he'll come back all set.
I need to send him to the Marines, but yeah.
I also think, like, look, as much as I don't like to rely on conventional medicine, when I'm looking at supplements, it really gave me a base knowledge of how it works. Like, okay, what's the half-life? I understand why maybe taking it twice a
What
day.
is a half-life? Explain what that is.
So, a half-life of a drug is how long it takes for half of it to excrete out of your body. And this is a term that we use for every single drug, and we have to understand. So, this is how you dose it. It's how you know how many times a day to give it. This is how you know how safe it will be. For example, how much of it will be in your body later on. So that's why sometimes when people will say, take 2 a day, I'm like, is it 2 at the same time or is it 1 twice a day? Because if the half life is 12 hours, then you take it every 12 hours. And just knowing those little things, I think,
Yeah.
on medical terminology, I can tell by the end of a word sometimes how it's going to work or what the chemical structure is, which impacts a lot of different things. So I did get a lot of value out of it. And luckily, I do love the health and wellness space. So it brought me value.
For me, I mean, I was a history major in college, but I was interested in environmental stuff. And this is back in the early 70s. The first Earth Day, in fact, 1972.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, how about that? And then I went to the first Earth Summit in 73 in Stockholm. So I was way into it, but I kept thinking, I don't want to be afraid of science. I want to know what it's like to at least be able to step into the scientific literature on a given topic and not be totally intimidated. Not to assume that if my background's in soil science, that I therefore know about, physiology or know about toxicology. You're not an expert. You just have a deep literacy in your field. It helps you then sort of step into, could be ecology, could be water chemistry, whatever it might be. It gives you a little confidence to explore. At least it does for me.
It does. I feel so confident in anything medicine related because of the literacy I gained. But it's funny you say that. That's me with politics. I'm so interested in helping fight and protest for some of the ingredients, but
Yeah.
I'm very intimidated by politics. So I keep trying to find like a politics for dummies, like a little YouTube course. If anyone knows of one, I would love
Maybe
it.
I should teach one.
Teach one.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
I would love just because I think what knowledge is power and knowledge gives you confidence. And I'm just so immersed in what I care about. Sometimes I'm like, okay, wait, maybe I should broaden my horizons a little bit. But I do understand that.
It's interesting. Robin O'Brien, who was on our show, she's an amazing leader in the health and wellness space at the intersection of finance and health and wellness, actually. And she's been a friend for many years. And she talks about the importance of getting your personal home family act together when it comes to health and wellness, being responsible, caring for things. But then she talks about, stepping out your front door, by which she means, stepping into civic discourse, stepping into political discourse, stepping into the broader world, armed with the information and convictions you have, and expressing your views. Because on the other side, on a lot of these issues, whether it might be pesticides or artificial additives, there are people paid to step out their front door
Exactly.
and make things happen in the policy world that we don't have the ability often to counter. And some of the most important ways to counter it are having real people with their experience step into the political realm. And it's not that different from just connecting to people. I mean, the congressional staff, legislative staff, whether it's in Albany or in Washington, D.C., they're just people, and they really value direct contact with constituents. But it is hard to kind of figure out, well, how do you do that? It's the Senate, it's the Congress, whatever it might be. It's a little intimidating, and I think we need to do a better job in the public interest community helping people just realize, hey, they're really working for me if they're
Mm-hmm.
representing my state or my congressional district. I just want to tell them what I think because industry is telling them what they think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Honestly, I even had a podcast episode on this, and we did a whole episode on how you can literally get a law passed. And it seems so like out of reach, but it's actually not. We have more
Yeah.
power than we think we have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, give that first step, which
Yep.
Robin says, right? Once you do it, it's always a little bit easier to take the second step.
That's such a
Yeah.
good point.
So I need to lose weight.
Are you saying hypothetically? Because you look great.
No, here's why I need to lose weight. For my health.
Yep.
I need to be around for a long time. I'm 73. I have a
Yes, we need you.
16-year-old. And so I need to live to, I don't know, 130, 140, something in that range.
Mm-hmm.
So I am struggling to keep with my schedule and everything else on the bike.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling a little bit with diet because I'm exposed to all kinds of unhealthy food. And there are times when so if you were advising someone who's 73, busy, has a young child, has opportunities to exercise, plenty of opportunities, what would you say? Okay, here's how you build in your brain and in your behavior kind of a system to help you achieve your goals.
I mean, this is something you already know, but everyone needs a reminder. Sticking to whole foods, I can't express enough how it's almost like, I don't know, when's the last time you ate McDonald's or Burger King or fast food?
A long time.
But do
Yeah.
you remember how before when we used to eat it, we thought, and now it's like that actually seems like poison.
Yeah, it does.
In your mind.
Yeah.
So when you end up getting to these, when you get used to eating a certain way, like grabbing something packaged or processed becomes almost that bad in your brain. For example, today I was 10 minutes late to this podcast because I was running out the door and I was so hungry. I hadn't eaten all morning. I cannot grab a bagel that's processed with all these ingredients unless it was homemade. Didn't have any at the time. I was like, whatever. I threw my leftover lentil soup into the pot. I cracked an egg on there. I made it into kind of like a shakshuka, whatever, like my own version. And I packed it in a Tupperware and I ate it in the car on the way over here. And it's like when it seems so extra.
Yeah.
But you get used to it and you just end up making these because I've demonized those other things because I know they're not good for me. One thing I also think about where I'm like, how many times am I eating in a day? Usually 3 to 4. I don't snack that often. I'm more of a meal person. That's not that many times. So what am I going to choose in those few times that I'm going to put into my body? I also love food. I'm such a foodie, but clean food. So I'm like, I don't want to waste one of those times on something that's bad or processed. I'd rather eat something clean. So one of the biggest things I do is cook and freeze. Anytime I'm making a soup or
Yep.
stew, actually last night I had nothing for dinner. In my freezer, I had a Tupperware of pesto that I had made from stems. So I save even like stems, like kale leaves, whatever. I blended it into a pesto one day because I didn't know what to do with it, put it in the freezer. So then I took my kelp noodles out. It takes 2 minutes to prepare, threw on the pesto, and I had myself a little
Bingo.
dinner. Yeah. And then, okay, for example, I try to get so many greens in a day because
Yep.
I think one thing people forget is we're not just eliminating, it's what you're adding in.
Yeah.
It's like life, it's nourishment. So it's obviously sometimes it takes too long. It's annoying to like wash and dry. But when you're steaming it, I had this huge thing of like green Swiss chard and a little bit of dandelion greens. Washed it all, didn't even dry it, stuck it in a steamer. 15 minutes, it's done. Put it in a Tupperware, and over 2 days, I was like, I don't like to keep leftovers for more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I have to finish this Tupperware within 24 hours. So I ate some last night with the pesto.
Yeah.
This morning, the leftover, I stuck into my lentil soup with the eggs, and that was what I ate on the way over here. So it's just like, it seems complicated, but it's not. Steaming greens takes 2 seconds.
Yeah. It's the new habits. And on the road, and I want to get your road routine too.
Yes, I will. I have lots of tips.
I just find myself kicking myself like I know all of this stuff.
I know. That's why I'm like, I know you know what I'm saying.
So what I'm getting at is it's not the knowledge, it's the behavioral cues, it's the habits that you try and form to stay in the groove. And when I'm in it, I'm thinking, why would I ever leave it? And then there I am in the rut thinking,
Right.
you know, how do I get out of this?
So I packed, we were in London 2 weeks ago. I packed my Safe Catch. So Safe Catch, I love this brand because they mercury test each
Yeah,
batch of
yep.
tuna, right?
We eat that at
You
home.
guys,
Yep.
so I packed wild salmon and tuna in there. I also packed like 2 cans of Wild Planet that had olive oil. Usually I just get the fish and water,
Yep.
but the one with the olive oil is so good because you can just eat it right out of there and it's
Yep.
like ready to go. I packed some Truvani protein powder.
Yep.
Yep.
Our friend Vani.
Exactly. Yeah, I
Yep.
love Vani. Are you a fan of basil seeds?
I don't know that.
So basil seeds not enough people know about them. It looks exactly like a chia seed, but it comes from basil.
Okay.
And there is no lectin. So people who are afraid of lectins or, who have any kind of
I don't know
intolerance.
from lectins. Maybe, I don't even know.
Some lectins, it got hot a few years ago of like anything with seeds, beans, legumes. So some people avoid seeds.
Well, if it's 2 years ago or so, that's about my speed.
Yeah.
I'm mostly 2 or 3 years behind. So that's perfect.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, basil seeds don't have lectins. And you know how chia seeds, you need like hours to let it gel up?
Yeah. Mhm.
Within minutes. So it's a really good breakfast. Okay, do you know the brand E3 Live?
People are going to think we're crazy, but
I
go
know.
on. Go
You
on.
know what? I used to be like, "Oh, I don't want people to think I'm a little extra, but I think I embrace it and like, look, take it or leave it. This is really helpful.
Yeah.
So E3 Live, do you know the algae brand?
No.
They're very good, high quality. They have spirulina, algae. They have these little packs of blue spirulina that are travel.
Yeah.
It's just so good for energy. So you don't have to have caffeine. You can just add water to the basil seeds, a little bit of nut butter, which you can pack with you. And it's like the most amazing breakfast. So I don't have to have hotel breakfast. And then you can get little instant decaf, organic Swiss water decaf coffee that you can get at Whole Foods.
Yep.
Get a water kettle to the room. All your breakfasts are taken care of. And then my favorite thing to do when I travel, I never, ever order off room service. I'd say 90% of the time. Once I get to the location or even before in my Postmates or Uber Eats, I'll put in the address and then I'll search keywords. So I'll say grass fed, organic, wild salmon, and then the restaurants populate that have it. And there's always something. Every small town even has this little organic juicery or something. And then I'll just Postmates my food.
Yeah.
And then look, if you're there with friends, go out to a meal and don't worry about it. But if you're there for 4 or 5 days, these are the habits you do. But if you're there for 1 or 2 nights and you've got some dinners with friends, of course, go live your life and don't stress about it.
Yeah. Of course. So did you go through the phase where you were that person at the dinner table where everyone was, yeah. Oh, great. Mona's coming.
People expect it now from me.
Yeah.
And you know what I find is I've always shared this. I don't talk about it. People ask me, like they're the ones who are always like making a thing of it. I'm just here to eat clean. So I just look up the restaurant before I go. I just check out the menu. And then I do this trick with the waiter. I'm like, oh, can you come over here? I have a question on the menu. And that way you're not shouting it across the table. Then they come next to you and then you hold the menu over your face and you're like, all right, let's talk. Is your meat grass fed? Is your salmon wild? And you can ask your questions.
Yeah.
And I just say, I'm sorry, I have a really strong intolerance to canola oil. It really bothers my stomach. Can you please make sure? And 90% of restaurants are using canola oil. So it's something I always, always ask for.
Yeah.
And if they can't, usually there's a workaround. They can either steam it or use olive oil or something.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So that's my new on the road routine. I got to get this.
Is that overwhelming or does it actually?
You know, the thing that's overwhelming is the stress and worry about trying to solve these problems and then giving up and just ordering room service.
And then feeling bad after?
Yeah, to me, that's it. And my motivation for staying healthy is mostly that I do have a young son. What a blessing. You know, I want to be around for him.
Yeah, that's the most beautiful motivation. I mean, even mine, of course, I like to look good, but really my biggest is I want to live a good life. I want to feel good in my body.
Yeah.
And be healthy.
He's very focused on me being able to continue to do the things like mountain biking that he and I do together.
Yep.
And it's a little unusual, not out where I live in Marin. There's people in their 70s mountain biking everywhere. But when I describe it to people, they feel like, well, isn't that shouldn't you maybe knock off the mountain biking because you could get hurt? And his view is that he doesn't want me to race mountain bikes anymore. Okay, I won't race. I wasn't good anyway. he really now has taken over the role of watching out after me on the trail.
So sweet.
Riding, he's like, Dad, I think I'll ride behind you. We're going down this kind of expert trail instead of the regular trail because you made a wrong turn, Dad. So for me, this is the most genuine motivation I've had in my life is we're doing something together and he's just happy about it. And I can't do it forever, I know, but that for me is the health motivation.
And I think that the norm is not what we should be aiming towards because the average person in America is not that healthy.
Yeah.
You do see those. What about those people who are one off in the blue zones who are 100 and still walking or running or riding
Yeah.
bikes? So why can't that be what we aspire to? I also think it's a mental state where, because to me, you're like young, healthy, energetic, I think the typical, oh, someone 73 when we're younger, we would think aren't doing these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that doesn't have to be the normal. If you're taking care of your body and, really focusing on your health, I don't see why we shouldn't be able to do these things.
Yeah, exactly right. And so someone who's watching this is feeling unmotivated.
Mhm.
How do you help them find that motivation? Because to me, we know all of the steps that have to be taken once you decide to take them.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you get people to sort of embrace that motivation, that energy to start down the path and self-heal?
I really think that it's so individualized. What I can do, I can share what motivated me. So when
Yeah.
I was in pharmacy school, I did not exercise or go to the gym. I grew up eating pretty healthy. My Persian background, I ate a lot of fruit and vegetables and I liked healthy food, but I was so focused on school and I hated going to the gym. So my last year of school, we were on rotations and I had a little more time. And my roommate and I joined a gym down the street, not in my school. And I took a cardio kickboxing class. And that was literally the catalyst to I swear, my whole wellness
Is that
journey.
right?
And yes, the pharmacy school background helped, but it was so much fun. And I had never had fun doing a workout class.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel that when you find something that really resonates with you, because you will, like if you asked me to do a cycling class, I would hate it. If you asked me to go for a jog, I would hate it. But I have things that I like and that high that I would get
I think
after,
that's right. Yeah.
And
Totally.
that started me being like, you know what, I'm going to try to eat like a little bit healthier. And there it was. And it just went from there. So I think everyone has to find their motivation and you just have to get started and keep, like, there's so many cool classes you can take now,
Yeah.
yes, at home workouts are less expensive and convenient, especially when you travel. But I think when you're trying to find your motivation, there is something about a community and a group class.
Being in a group.
Yeah, you get
Yeah.
that energy. I get energized from people,
Yeah, I think that's right. I
right?
think that's right. I much more enjoy group rides on my bike or riding with a friend than just riding by myself.
I think in general, humans, like I like to be in packs. Like it's normal for us to want community. It also makes you live longer.
Yeah,
Friendship and community.
for sure.
I mean, that's actually been proven in all the blue zones. The biggest thing across all of them is community
It's people.
and purpose.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in your life now, busy as it is, and fragmented with all these activities and all these responsibilities and all the things you're doing, what's the spot that you return to when you need to be centered and remember who you are and put everything else out just for enough of a recharge to then go through the next set of projects, which life is. It's all projects, one after another. But how do you do that?
I would say family. My home life and family life is the most important thing to me. And whenever work stresses me out and then I come back to that, I'm like, it literally takes the stress away because I remember my priorities and what really matters. And it's the people. Like work is fun and I have so much passion and I have drive behind it. But at the end of the day, I would always choose family and love
Yeah.
over it. So I think it just helps me ground myself. And my meditation practice has really deepened over the last 3 years. I've been doing it for 8 or 9 years, but the first 4 or 5, I feel, wasn't really getting there.
Uh-huh.
And now the last few years, I've really gotten to an amazing place where, when you see the Buddha smile that on his
Mhm.
face, like that smile will just come to my face when I'm meditating and I'm not even doing it on purpose. My body just goes into it and I'm like, oh, I'm so relaxed. Like my mind is relaxed, my body's relaxed. So I know it can sound cliche, but it's such a powerful tool and it just makes me feel like everything is aligned as it's supposed to be. So don't stress about anything.
So What do you think changed 3 or 4 years ago when it started to really deepen for you?
Joe Dispenza. So I got really into his work. I was trying his meditations, wasn't resonating. Then I went to his week-long retreat, completely changed my viewpoint on life and everything because he mixes science with spirituality so well. And coming from a science background, I needed to see the proof to
Uh-huh.
believe in a lot of it.
Yeah.
So then I was doing his meditations for a couple years religiously, and they're intense. They're like an hour and a half long.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's a lot. But it almost trained me, whereas now I don't need anything. I can just sit silent and I immediately go into this relaxed state. So I feel like it was a good base. And then if I feel like doing it, I can. If I want to do breath work, I can, because there's so many ways to meditate. But now I feel like I'm an advanced meditator, so I can just sit anywhere, anytime, and get to that
And
place
you
I need
can
to. Yep.
lock in.
Yeah.
Amazing. When you look at sort of the landscape of American health right now,
hmm
obviously we're not doing what we need to do for nutrition. Obviously, we're not doing what we need to be doing for activity. But what are the things that sort of give you a sense of optimism and hope that maybe we're coming out of a period where chronic illness is rampant and people are expecting the pharmacist to solve their problem,
hmm
where, people don't take care of themselves, and then medicine's about dealing with a crisis, kind of a emergency room writ large versus the longer term health and wellness path. What gives you hope now, Mona?
Honestly, the people. I feel like we are just as a community caring so much more and are so much more aware, whether it's from social media, from the internet, just from people, influencers sharing, that we're actually driving change. Because if you look at brands, now there's clean at Sephora, now there's like paraben free, phthalate free, fragrance free. They're listening to us.
Yeah.
And I think the more we come together as a group and make noise, also, it's really just supply and demand. If this is what we're demanding, they're going to supply it. So I think that it's really inspiring to see. And the health and wellness movement is so big.
Yeah.
It's great to see because it's not just a trend. It's the most important thing in your
Yeah.
life. So that really inspires me. And I feel like, I don't know, at least it's my algorithm. I see it all the time now on social media where
Yeah.
everyone's so loud about it. And,
Yeah.
companies like EWG, the work you guys have done is so incredible. And I feel like it helps so
Thank
many
you.
people. And you guys really give us like almost like a base and a sounding board and structure to go off of and work off of and just make change.
Well, I happen to agree. I think the change is coming from the bottom up. I think people are really metabolizing the message and understanding that you got to take the steps yourself. You're not alone. If you need medical care, you need medical care. If you need experts to help you with a health crisis or even a condition, avail yourself. And we need good healthcare policy to make sure that that's affordable for everybody. But a big part of my optimism is that people are showing up and they're curious. They're open to new ideas. They're a little suspicious of silver bullets. They're a little suspicious of corporate healthcare, a little suspicious of big companies telling us this is what you can eat. It's perfectly safe and healthy.
hmm
That combination of inquiry and self-interest, it's moving markets, it's moving companies, it's making a big difference. So I'm kind of where you are, and you're one of the leaders helping people, find their way. So thank you so much for all you've done and you continue to do.
Thank you. It's really a joy and a pleasure. It's fun. You're passionate about something when you're genuinely excited to share it.
Yeah.
I'm like even when you're like, what do you pack? I'm like, well, let me tell you. I'm going to send you a photo because it's like you
Yeah.
love it and it works. So it's exciting to share with people and help
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pack differently for my very next trip. I can promise you that.
I really hope you do because it's easy and it just works.
Yeah. Mona Van, doctor, thank you so much. Really appreciated you taking time to sit down with me today.
This was a great conversation. I'll come back anytime.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, pal. Mona Van, thank you for joining us on the show today. I also want to thank you out there for listening. If you'd like to learn more, be sure to check out our show notes for additional links for a deeper dive into today's topic. Make sure to follow our show on Instagram at Ken Cook's Podcast. And If you're interested in learning more about EWG, head on over to ewg.org or check out EWG's Instagram account at Environmental Working Group. Now, if you like this episode, send it to a friend who you think might like it too. Environmentalism is all about meeting people where they're at. And if you're listening to this, you probably know someone who might be interested in today's episode. They just don't know it yet. My ask is that you send it to that person or to as many people as you see fit. Today's episode was produced by the extraordinary Beth Rowe and Mary Kelly. Our show's theme music, Thank You Moby, is by Moby. And thanks again for listening.